Hello, this is the Joy of Paintball. Today I talk to Jenn Fulk, and we talk about her playing on all sorts of teams, sometimes at the same time. We talk to her about being a photographer, transitioning into playing. We talk about her writing for Great American Paintball. We talk about being an athlete for Clatter Paintball, and we talk about much more. It was a really great conversation. She had a lot of cool choices for artwork. I really want y'all to check that out. They're pretty diverse, I think is a good way to say it. But yeah, it was a great talk, great episode, really impressed person. And yeah, this is Joy Paintball. I'm Clint Riddle, and this is Jenn Fulk.
Okay, I'm Clint, by the way. Sorry.
Nice to meet you, Clint. I'm Jenn.
Nice to meet you.
Sure thing.
So, I reached out because, I read your article in Gap, and I've been seeing you play with Underground, with Heroines, and with Team USA, and just thought, man, really need to get her on. This The Joy of Paintball is a podcast all about like paintball and creators in any sense of the word. And I know you've done photography.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've done, you wrote for Gap, and then you're ultimately like just a player, like the player, really. But you've also done, what is it? Some commentating. I've been hearing you more and more in those booths. So.
Yeah, man, I feel like I've been involved in like a little bit of everything when it comes to paintball. Like you said, I'm actually impressed that you knew I used to be a photographer because I did a lot of paintball media to start with. So. Yeah, that's cool.
I'm all over the place with the media. I kind of rely on those guys for
sure.
my stuff. Yeah,
for sure.
So, why paintball?
It's a good question. I've been asking myself that every single day. Honestly, I don't know. It's one of those things where I grew up playing, sports, so I'm very competitive, naturally. If you know me, you know. There was a big gap in my life after I stopped playing sports competitively, went to college, took some time off, got heavily into art, and then
Yes.
my husband Chaz, and I'll probably get to this later in the conversation, but he played paintball back in the day in high school, and then he decided, after that long break, I want to get back into it, and I was like, that's odd, but okay, let's do it. And so we went to the field, and back in the day when he was playing, I didn't really have any interest in playing, but for some reason when he came back into it, it was kind of like in that new era of paintball, and something about it was just appealing in a way that wasn't back in the day. And I think that speaks to a larger topic of the way paintball has changed as a community as a whole. But yeah, so something about paintball just struck me at that time, and that was the end of 2018, 2019. And if you had told me then that this is how things would be now, as in this is how much of my life I would be spending, like you said, doing all sorts of things in paintball, I would be like, you're out of your mind. But here we are. So I can't complain about it. I love it. And I've invested a lot of time and energy into this game. And I'm grateful for that, honestly.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're grateful for it. You are quite the, what's the word? The showman. I can't think of the representative for the
I appreciate
sport.
that.
I know that a lot of people reach out because you're a woman who plays paintball,
Mm-hmm.
but I think just in general, like, I hear all sorts of dudes when they're getting interviewed, and I'm like, could we, maybe someone who's a little more polished, I guess you could say. But it is what it is. Like, that's the sport. But
I love it.
like just you bring meaning to like what you're doing, and it's evident in what you say. Not to knock anyone who's spoken to the crowds or whatever.
Sure.
But like, I know that everyone has meaning, but I think you verbalize that a lot better than folks have in the past.
I'm gonna blame the heroines on that because every time that we would have to go on stage to accept an award or do it, literally anything, or like if we had to do like an Instagram reel for our sponsors or whatever, it was always like, Jenn, you do it. Jenn, you do it. Jenn, you do it. So it's funny, and I did things like that long before the heroines, but they always used to toss me the mic, so I just kind of got used to being that person that had to do it. But
Yeah.
But hey, it worked out in the long run because ultimately, like you said, I am getting to commentate now, and that's actually, it was and is still like a huge goal of mine and something I really, 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 really love to do. So I'm
Awesome.
grateful for that, honestly.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
amazing. So talk to me about the heroines, like, or maybe the dynamic, the difference in the two. Is there
Hmm.
more of a? Do you feel like the heroines have more of a something to prove? I guess being part of the WNXL versus like underground in the sense of like yes, you guys are both trying to win, obviously,
Right.
but like, is there more like discussion team wise as far as like how you guys represent the sport or?
Um, so going back to the first part of your question about having something to prove, I actually think at the beginning, yes, obviously there was a ton to prove at the beginning of the WNXL because it was brand new. Nobody knew who anyone was, and nobody knew who the heroines were, who Vibe was, or anything. So it was a blank slate, and so you had a lot to prove, and we as players had a lot to prove. But now that we're into, I think WNXL just entered its fourth season,
Mm-hmm.
and the heroines are, I think, well known as the top team in the league. They've won half of the events, have podiumed every event. And I think that it's just, we've won team of the year twice. And so I don't think at this point any longer it's about like having something to prove as in like uh, in a competition setting. I don't think it's like they've kind of proven, we have proven
Mm-hmm.
that already. But in terms of, proving to the community and to the bystanding women and girls in the, that are on the sidelines, hey, like girls can play too. Here we are. There's a community here. Like obviously there's that aspect of having something to prove, and the WNXL has been doing that for a couple seasons, and it's that growth is there. The number of girls playing has like doubled since the WNXL has been around. So obviously it's doing what it was designed to do. But I like your question because it's, the comparison between playing with underground and, in the men's league. I'm using quotations here
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's a co-ed league, but it's basically a men's league because the percentage of women playing is still so small, especially outside of the WNXL. So in comparison, when you're looking at playing it but in both, there's definitely like a huge like spotlight on you when you're in the WNXL, and that's by design. Don't get me wrong; that's intentional in order to help promote the league and be visible to women and girls playing. But when you're playing, on a regular, any division team, you're just kind of part of the masses that are out there. So it is kind of a different dynamic in the sense that I actually feel like I do have a lot to prove there now because I've done what I've needed to do in the WNXL, and like you said, I do kind of have like that following now because of the WNXL. But now it's like that's why I've decided to take that step back from the WNXL this year for multiple reasons. But one of those being to kind of go back to my roots with my home team, Underground. That I actually, it's not just a team I play on; it's a team I own. That my
Okay.
husband and I run together. Yes, so like it's our
Nice.
team. So we do it all. So we do everything behind the
Dang.
scenes. So
So we got to add
yeah,
manager to the
yeah, team
list of
owner
things.
for,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And people, and you're gonna get me on a tangent here, so I'll try not to ramble for too long, but like team owners, man, go thank your team owner if you've got one. And
Oh
also
yeah.
mad respect to those teams that do it all without an owner because that's got to be even harder because all the things that we, myself and my husband Chaz, do that somebody's got to do, all the planning, all the organization, so on and so
Yeah.
forth. So it's a lot of work. So, but
Dang.
yeah, to answer your question, I'm definitely kind of going back to those roots and looking to prove ourselves there. And it, like I said, there's been the spotlight in the WNXL, but kind of proving that I can hang on the
Mm-hmm.
other end as well has been obviously a huge part of my goals as a player, even before the WNXL. So I'm kind of picking back up there. And don't get it twisted, I was still playing with the guys while playing in the WNXL. So I was kind of
Yeah.
doing doubles. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was
I
a
was
lot.
checking your PB leagues when I was like when you logged on just to
Yeah.
like double check because I was like I think she played both leagues
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
simultaneously. So
It was tough. It
yeah.
was a lot of work.
I'm
So
sure. What are the
yeah.
logistics on that alone? Like, did it
Hmm.
ever come down to like you having to choose one game or
Yes.
another?
Yes.
Oh my
They,
gosh.
for the most part, they kind of made it work for me, where I could do prelims, like I could do both. They would shift the schedule a little bit, and not just for me, but they tried to
Yeah.
promote like other girls that were doing both, because there was a couple of us who were playing both the normal NXL and the WNXL, so they would try to make it work for us and other WNXL teams who had players. But then come Sunday, when we'd be hitting like semis and quarters at the same time, just due to the nature of, the commitment to
Oh
WNXL. I
my
had to,
gosh.
yeah. And so, and that was one of the multitude of reasons why I'm not playing WNXL this year. That's just part of it, as well um, as we've kind of grown over the course of the seasons. At the beginning of Underground, the team was made up of players who had a broad history in the sport and a lot of experience. And so I was doing a lot of learning early on, and those guys taught me a lot. And as the years have gone on, my role on the team has become more and more critical. And so it's just one of those things where I could not be there. And so it's just, that was one of multiple reasons why I've decided to kind of step away this year.
Yeah. Gosh, the fact that it's like you're having to choose games on Sunday,
Yeah.
not, prelims, like, okay, I'll catch up with them later, but Sunday it's like, eek,
Yep.
that's,
Yep.
I don't envy that. That's a
Yeah.
hard choice.
The one of the craziest ones that I ever did was actually Chicago 2023, and on
Okay.
Sunday in the mud, in the pouring rain and the mud. So I literally played in the semifinals of the WNXL in the pouring rain. It was the Heroines versus the Femmes. It was actually on the pro field. We won that game, and I ran all the way over to play with Underground, and we were playing the third and fourth place consolation match for D3 because I
Hmm.
had missed the semis basically. Like I couldn't play semis. And I'm not saying that's why we lost the semi. That's why Underground lost the
Sure it
semis by any
is.
means. But
Yeah.
I go
Yeah.
rush over to play the third and fourth place match with Underground. Literally, like we're down by one, and we have to like score in like X amount of seconds. And I go try to do a run through, get blasted, my lips bleeding, and we don't
Oh,
win the point, so we get fourth place. And then I run back over to the Heroines and play finals with the Heroines against the Cheetahs,
dang.
and luckily we won that match. But it was just, and it was like the mud like this thick on the
Yeah.
ground that you're trying to run through. So that was one of
Yeah.
the wake up calls for sure.
Yeah. No, maybe not worth it. I don't know. I don't. That's a
It
lot
was
to
tough. It
take
was
in.
tough.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, we can talk about paintball if you want, but I'm interested in like, I just like read your piece I've only gotten the first issue of Gap, but I read your piece
Sure.
in that. I don't know if you've had one in the second yet.
Mm-mm.
Or
Nope,
okay,
just the first one. Yep.
gotcha. And that was great, and I loved like your whole approach to this. Pretty much what you've been talking about so far this podcast, like just sort of, I'm a paintball player, like I don't need a qualifier for that, like, and I think what a difficult position to be in. From my perspective, it's you're trying to like honor like this what WNXL is trying to do, but you're also like, hey, I got my own thing,
Hmm.
and this is how I want to be known. And man, it was just like a real powerful piece. So anyone who's listening who hasn't read it, go get that issue and go read it. It was good. It's real good.
For sure. I
So
appreciate that. Yeah, it was one of those things where when Alex reached out to me about doing a piece for Gap, and this was before Gap was like even a thing. So I get a cold call from Alex. He's like, "Hey, I'm making a book." I'm like, "What?" But
yeah.
no, yeah. And so when I started working with him on the article, my first thought was he's going to want me to talk about WNXL. He's going to want me to talk about
Hmm.
why it's important. The questions I always get asked. But as I started kind of talking to him, he was like, "No, I don't. It doesn't have to be about that. It can be about whatever you want it to be. Like, how do you actually feel about paintball and your story?" And so we kind of everybody kind of knew me as the WNXL player, but I really wanted to be very very honest and open about what paintball meant to me and my approach to paintball and kind of my background in competitive sports and like how that kind of shaped me into the paintball player that I am. So I really appreciate
Yeah.
that. I really enjoyed writing that piece actually.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. Um, all right. Something just piqued my interest when you're talking about
Sure.
like how you always get asked those questions,
Hmm.
and it just like I'm gonna go into like cheesy interview questions now.
Let's do
Like,
it.
what's the
Let's do it.
question? What's the question you don't always get asked? Like, what is the one that you're like, man, I wish you would have asked that.
Oh, you put me on the spot because I'm
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
positive. No, 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 it's okay. Because I am positive that I have some of those, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. But I'm positive I have some. Um, Man, I don't know. I mean, I guess based on the topic of the article, the Gap
Mm.
article and about being the competitor. And not that anybody would be no to ask me this question, but everybody talks about paintball, but it's like, who are some of your influences outside of paintball? And one thing that I touched on in the article that, if you haven't read it, is that both my parents were athletes, and kind of the way that they shaped me and my brother growing up in terms of like our competitive goals and our broad sports history is just like, I think that they had a big hand in the way that I approach competition and the competitive setting, even in paintball. So just want to give a shout out to my parents, both of them, for everything that they did for me and making me into the person and player I am. So I guess that's the question. I just answered my own question, but it's basically like, who are some of your influences overall? It doesn't have to be a paintball player, but um, yeah, I don't know. That's
Yeah.
not really a question, but that's the only thing
No,
I could
that's
come up
great.
with off the top of my head
No,
on
you
the
nailed it,
spot.
dude. That was like, man, I've talked about this already. I like y'all go do your research. What's ask me a new question. That's that was kind of the premise, and I think that's great. Like, yeah, I have influences, but it may not be who you think it is.
Yeah.
And you said your mom played tennis and your dad was a coach.
Yes. Well, both of them. Yes, my mom was like absurdly good at tennis. She went to High Point College on a tennis scholarship, and my dad played multiple sports. He did not play in college, but after the fact, he was a basically the baseball coach in the area. So like everybody kind of wanted to be coached by my dad in terms of his
Nice.
baseball knowledge. So he was just his mind for the game. I actually attribute like a lot of my analytical like nature, especially when it comes to like the commentating, all of
Oh,
that kind of
okay.
stuff to my dad. He and I used to basically just like sit around and talk about the rule book, and we still do that. Like we'll watch a sports game, whatever game, and we'll be like texting like, "Hey, do you think that in this case this would apply here or whatever?" Right? So a lot of the like analytics I get from my dad. So
Nice.
but yeah, and it's just I don't know. I just really appreciate that I kind of got the best from both of them, and that they helped shape me into like the competitor, I should say, that I am now.
That's really interesting. That you're like talking about like commentating, and I keeps like just sort of popping in. I got to remember this.
Hmm.
Like, talk to me about the difference, if there is one, like approaching a game, looking at a game as a player versus a commentator.
Sure. Yeah, one big thing that, and I remember going into the booth with Maddie for the first time, and after we got done, he's like, "You really have like the voice. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like literally my voice, but it's like the voice of being able to um, be, I think, digestible to the audience." And I think that's one thing that doesn't always translate from like players to commentators. Is a lot of players come in and they're speaking in a way that makes sense to them, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not about what makes sense to you. It's about what makes sense to the viewer. And ever since I've started commentating, that's like my favorite feedback to hear is that like somebody texted me and was like, "Hey, my mom was watching the game and she said that she could follow everything that you were saying because of the way you were describing it. She was like, you're
Oh
so
yeah.
good at making it understandable." And so I think that's the biggest thing is like when I'm in the booth and I'm watching the game, yes, I'm thinking about it as a player because I was just playing on the field next
Mm-hmm.
door, 5 seconds ago. So I'm learning from those guys too, obviously. But you really have to, if you want to be good at commentating, you really have to put yourself not in your own shoes, but in the viewer's shoes, as in not only the viewers that don't know anything about paintball, even the ones that do, because we've all been sitting at home watching Go Sports. You don't have all the angles at at every
Mm-hmm.
point in time, so you have to do a really good job of like explaining things that you can't always see. So it's just thinking like one step outside of what you're actually seeing. So
Wow.
it's a lot.
Where do you think that comes from? Like, because we all kind of know that. Like, oh yeah, I'm not talking to a paintball player. Like we've had those
Yeah.
moments where we're trying to explain it, but like, where do you think was there any preparation before you stepped in the booth to like sort of think about that, or is this just like a natural thing that
I mean, it's
came
gonna
to you?
sound corny, but no, it just came to
Yeah.
me. Yeah. Yeah. And just a small microcosm of that example of that is like when people get into the booth and they automatically start using their team's codes, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the monster or the command center,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know what that is. So like the ability to like switch from that really quickly and say, no, the center tower, the snake
Mm-hmm.
insert, Aztec tower, whatever. Just being able to kind of switch on a dime to the more public approach to it is, I think,
Okay.
just something that either comes natural or takes practice. And for me, it really did just come natural. Like I didn't really sit around and think about it. It just kind of flows out. Sometimes too much. I think I talk too fast sometimes. That's the criticisms I've gotten, is
Oh,
talking too fast. But
I've not encountered that, but
yeah.
okay. Um, wow. So does that like where's that come from? That's just a you thing, or like does your job require a lot of public speaking, or
No,
or like managing, or
no, and
you?
I actually really do not like talking to people. Like you wouldn't think that, but like for my job at work, like
Yeah.
anytime someone calls me, I'm like, can you not? Can you not call me? Like I
Well,
don't, or
wow.
like for example, like uh, I don't even know. I'm running out of ideas off the top of my head, but yeah, I'm not really like, you wouldn't think this, but I'm really not like a people person in the real sense of the word. But
Does it like
somehow
drain
it
you or
just,
whatever? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
but it's
okay.
funny because like, I'll go to the events and people be like, Jen, Jen, and I've talked to everybody, but like, and maybe it's the difference between like people I know versus like the random person at the restaurant that's taking my order or whatever. But I feel like I'm kind of like socially awkward in some ways, which is just funny because it doesn't translate, I think, into commentating. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, man. I really don't know how I ended up here or able to commentate. But the first time I actually did it was on the Premiere field, like 4W and XL and Semi Pro. And I got in there and I was commentating some semi-pro games. And after the game, like the next day, some of the semi-pro teams came up and they were like, "You are one of the best ones. Like we really want you to do it more." So that, because again, going back to the limited angles, like you really have to. The more that you provide, more context you provide as a commentator, all it does is help facilitate the like what's you're physically seeing on the screen. So I think once I got that feedback from them early on, it just kind of became like, okay, maybe I am actually kind of good at this. So let's just keep rocking with it. And let me back up a second because one of your questions was like preparation for this, right?
Hmm.
One thing that I do is I have a like encyclopedia of like paintball history, like information in my head, like on this event, this team won, and then the semis they won 6-2
Oh,
against this team.
specific to okay.
Yeah, and that's
Wow.
just, and that was also like not even really, that wasn't specifically for commentating. That's just, I
Stuff
just,
you've
I
acquired
am
over the
on PB
years.
leagues like every day. Like I'm not kidding. Like
Wow.
I'm, and that's probably some form of neurosis, I'm sure, but like, we're here.
Hey, that's yeah. That's another dad thing you think? Like, are
Yes,
you like
yeah,
you're
research,
studying teams
statistics.
and like yeah, okay, all
Yep,
right,
definitely.
nice. Well,
Yep.
after that, thank you so much again for doing this, knowing that
Yeah.
it is
No, not the same. Not the same.
okay.
Not the same. So here's the best example I can think of, and you can cut this out of the podcast if you want to, but like let's say that you're in a public bathroom and you're in the stall and someone else is like coming out of the stall to wash their hands. Like I don't want to go out and be next to that person and have to like talk to that person while we're washing our hands. Like I'm not doing that. Even like back
Yeah.
when I used to work in the office and my coworkers would be in the bathroom and like I don't want to, or go into the kitchen, the break room, and it's like
Hmm.
now I got to talk to this person. So
Yeah.
it's not the same. Talking about paintball like this is not the same, and that's probably why I talk
That's
to so
good.
many people at NXL, and it's fine. It's just it's different than just like I don't know being good at making small talk with strangers or whatever. It's because
No.
I'm not
Yeah.
good at that.
Okay.
Anyway,
All good. All good. All right. Well, shoot. Let's jump into this first question.
sure.
Or actually, um, photography. I
Yeah.
want to jump into that because
Okay.
I was like scouring some images today and pulling from them, and there's something I noticed about yours is like I don't know. I'm not super familiar with cameras. I'm
Mhm.
quasi familiar, like with photography in general. Just
Mhm.
I'm an art teacher, a high school art
Yeah.
teacher, so I got to know this stuff sometimes. But like your photos, there's a lot of them very crisp. Is like the word that comes to mind, and you do this sort of like separation of the depth. I don't know how intentional
Okay.
this is, but like the player is, well, what's the word? I guess in focus, and
Mhm.
then uh, it's really really subtle, but it like just like they stand out more than
No, I
like
appreciate
anything
that.
else, and it's really cool. So like, what's your was there a photography background before paintball, or was this just you and
Yes.
Chaz hanging out at the
Yep.
okay?
Yep. So back before paintball, so when I was in high school, I was actually like the main photographer. Now I was in high school in like 2009, 10, 11, ish. So back then, cameras a little bit more dated than they are now. We didn't have mirrorless cameras and all that
When I
fun
was in
stuff
high
back then.
school, just so you know, when I was in high
Sure.
school, we had a I can't remember, but it was a camera. It was digital, so that was real cool,
Hmm.
and it had a literal floppy disk that you put into
Oh
it.
wow,
So
that's something.
don't worry about it.
That's
I got
something.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Anyway,
back in
sorry.
no, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. Um, yeah. So back in high school, I was the kind of like main photographer for like our yearbook and things like that, and I did tons of sports photography because I was really into sports in high school, and as was my family, obviously.
Hmm.
So I was really into like action photography. At that time, actually, not super into like art. I
Yeah.
was a very like, sports minded person. And then I met Chaz in high school, my husband, and we kind of started getting into some filmmaking. But around that time, and slightly before that, it was when I went to my very first paintball event with Chaz, and I started photographing paintball, which was like mind blowing to me because I came from other sports,
Hmm.
photographing other sports, baseball, basketball, whatever. And so I started doing paintball photography back in like 2010, 11. And then it was very short lived. And then we kind of got out of the paintball scene entirely, went to college, got heavily into filmmaking, kind of shifted
Nice.
more towards that aspect of things, cinematography, stuff like that. And then kind of put photography to the side and then didn't really pick it up again until gosh, probably once I started playing, so maybe 2019, 2020, and I was just kind of doing it like here and there. And then obviously once the WNXL started and I was playing on two teams, I pretty much couldn't do
You couldn't
paintball
fit that
media
in?
anymore.
There's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's so funny because in 2021, I actually was doing paintball media pretty heavily, and I went to the NXL and I was like shooting on the pro field and like I was really, really in it. And
Wow.
then at the end of 2021, that was when basically a company offered like, hey, do you want to be our main photographer for the events in 2022? You would be doing all this stuff like yada yada yada. Come work with us. And then the
Hmm.
WNXL started, and I was like, I can't because I'm going to be
Yeah.
playing on two teams at the NXL, and I don't have time to do media. So pretty much paintball media kind of got pushed to the side, and I haven't done paintball photography in literally years, just because I haven't had time. Um, but I do
So
have a humongous appreciation for paintball media. I think that we have some of the most incredible photographers that ironically work in paintball, that are fantastic even outside of paintball. But I saw your recent post about, I think it was from Andy's
yeah,
podcast
yeah,
episode, but it was about paintball media, and yeah, there's some really 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 good photographers
yeah, and
in
they're all
paintball.
sweethearts, man. I've
Yeah.
not met a media person that was mean or
Hmm.
cold, like
Yeah.
warm, wonderful people. So
Yep. Absolutely.
yeah. So any desire to go back to it, or like you ever
Not really.
like
No.
okay, you
No,
like when you
and
can
let me,
shoot back?
yeah, well, it's just like, here's the thing, and I think it's just, and I think this is why I'm always hiring paintball media for all my events for both leagues, both divisions. It's just like, I appreciate it because I know how much work it is. I mean, it's an insane amount of work, and they're putting
Hmm.
their gear on the line, their bodies on the line. I mean, paintball
Yeah,
media is no joke, and it is hard. And that's one of the reasons, that I was kind of like, okay, that's, it's like I couldn't do it because of time, but it was kind of one of those
yeah,
things where it was like, I miss
yeah,
it every now and then, but for the most part, it's tough. And I've
yeah.
got people and friends who can do it for me.
There
So
you go. There you go.
no, I
You're
will
in a good
probably not be
spot.
getting back into paintball media for a while.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we kind of glossed over the filmmaking thing. This is
Yeah.
super intriguing. Talk to me about
Okay.
this.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Now, I hope you're ready because I could talk about this for days.
Let's go.
Um,
That's
Yeah, so when I was in high school, like I said, I met my husband now, but in high school, obviously, met him in high school, and he was really into film. He was in film class, like he was a writer director, writing screenplays, wanted to make short films. And again, like I said, this was 2010-ish, 11,
in
and
high school.
in
That's
high
sorry.
school,
I love it. I this is these are. He's like the dream kid. Did his teachers know? Do you think
what that he was into filmmaking?
that like that's what he wanted? That he was like
Yes.
doing these things?
Hmm.
Gosh,
Yep.
man, that's
Yep. So
like
I went
that's
to a
so
public
cool.
high school, and
Yeah.
we had like a one film studies class, and I actually didn't take it because I was in another one-off class that we had called mass media that was basically like news and things like that. But I was in that class and yearbook and Chaz was in the film class, which was taught by an English teacher at our high school, and that was where he, fell in love with film, and we met right around that time. And I was a photographer, and that's kind of when I started picking up video, and so he and I started like making these like rough little like short films, and this would have been, like I said, around 2011 or so. And then we both graduated high school and went to college, went to two different colleges. He went to University of North Carolina School of the Arts for filmmaking.
Okay.
So he is a art student through and through.
Nice.
And then I went to North Carolina State University on a communications major, but studied filmmaking as well, more or less, media,
Nice.
communication, film, and film. So we both kind of have like the film school background, but he's more of a writer director type, and I am more of a technical kind of cinematographer, editor kind of type. So it actually worked out really well. So he and I have
Yeah.
made a number of short films over the course of 2013 through about 2019. And then it kind of took a back seat because of paintball. So we actually used to kind of like live and breathe filmmaking for a long time.
Dude.
And then, yeah, and then paintball pretty much consumed my entire life. And Chaz has supported me from the start. So a lot of things have kind of taken a back seat, but he, yeah, he's still heavy into writing scripts and screenplays and things like that. So I'm
That's so
actually gonna
cool.
jump ahead to one of your questions that
Okay.
you had sent me because I'm
All right.
already in it now. So
Yeah, let's
I'm
do
just gonna
it.
go ahead and answer it now. But
Yeah.
one of your questions that you had sent me ahead of schedule for this call was who's a creative or artist that people need to know about. And while I'm here, I'm going to tell you about this guy named Chaz Fulk. He is my husband, and he is a filmmaker, but he's also a photographer. He does a lot of film photography, and you can find that on his Instagram. It's literally at
Sweet.
Chaz, and that's Chaz with a Z, not a D. It's
Awesome.
Chaz. But no, yeah, he's awesome, and he's super creative. He's way more creative than I am. But he does a lot of really cool stuff, and so not as much like we don't really do a lot of like paintball creating, so to speak, in terms of like filmmaker things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
outside of paintball, lots of cool stuff, and we're hoping to get back to that, here in the next little bit because he's been working on a screenplay for a while. So yeah,
Dude, you guys, y'all don't sleep, do you? Like,
no, not at all.
you own a team, you play on a team, and you want to like do a screenplay, and I'm
Yeah,
assuming, oh my gosh,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
yeah, that's a
And I work full time, man. I
yeah,
still have a regular job, so
gosh,
yeah,
all right, good for y'all. That's that's super impressive.
yeah.
Where can we find some short films?
Well, a long time ago, they used to be on Vimeo, but then because I
Oh,
wasn't using it much, I actually canceled my like pro membership because I
okay,
wasn't using it. And so they're all archived for now. So they are not on the internet right now. But if you go to, you can see we did do a short a couple years ago that is literally like one take. So it's like a
nice.
couple minutes long, and it's literally one take short, and that's actually on Chaz's Instagram. Like you can go
Okay,
see it on there. I think it's
all
his
right,
first pinned post at the top. So
sweet.
you just have to turn your phone sideways. But yeah, that one's on there. But I need to get things back online at least because I've had a couple of people ask where they can see some stuff. But I'm
Yeah, man.
also one thing you'll learn about me is I'm very very self-critical. In paintball and in real life and in
Okay.
every aspect, which kind of goes back to the article about wanting to be like
Yeah.
a perfectionist and kind of be the
Yeah.
best I can be. So of course, like anybody, it's like you go back and watch something or that you did before, and you're like, oh, I can
Yeah.
do better, But it's
Yeah.
anybody's like that. I think any
Yeah, for
creator
sure.
probably.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I I hear kids like athletes at school,
Hmm.
and I'm asking, "Oh, how'd the game go Friday or whatever?" And they're like, we lost." Or, "Who do y'all play this week?" This one happens a lot. "Who do y'all
Hmm.
play this week?" It doesn't matter. We're gonna lose. I'm like, "Why are you
Oh
even on the
gosh.
team?" Like, what? Like the I
Yeah.
hear that, and I'm just like, guys, just don't play. Like
Yeah.
that's Anyway, you said something about that in your article too, of like, you know,
Yep.
if I'm competing, then I believe that I can, like, I'm at least gonna try to go to the top. Like, what's the point?
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
yeah, it's a it's a weird thing.
For
Like
sure.
I'm definitely like in becoming the get off my lawn guy at school, where I'm just like back in my day, my coach would have blah 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 or whatever,
Yeah.
like. Sorry.
No, I love it.
Okay. Well, while we're in those questions, what's a piece of art? And I use the word art very loosely, like however you want to interpret it. What's a piece of art that stopped you in your tracks?
This one took me a couple minutes to decide because I feel like I could answer it like 17 different ways. Um,
We
but
could round up. We could do like three pieces that just
okay,
like got your attention.
okay, cool. Gosh, the first thing I can think of that really fit that bill was Francisco Goya's Saturn devouring his son.
No shit. Sorry. No one ever says
Very.
that. Like, that's intense, man.
So I was in Spain in
Yeah,
2013 on a study abroad trip, and I was at the Prado.
that's
And I
amazing.
remember seeing it, being like, "What?" And here's the worst part, or best part, either way, was that I was like kind of sick, and so like I'm like in this museum trying to enjoy it, and I was just feeling like crap, and then I see
Yeah.
Saturn devouring his son, and I'm just like, "Wow!" And so honestly, but like all jokes
Yeah.
aside, I think Goya is one of the best. Like he's I don't know. It's his stuff is
Really?
just
What do you like
yes,
about
I
him?
love it. I don't know. It just kind of like feels ominous, but like makes you feel something. And
Mm-hmm.
my second answer is very different. So don't think I'm a freak for liking
No,
Goya.
it's real. Well, like a lot of people know him, so I don't know that you're a freak for that. He's like, it's just such a, and it makes sense that it would stop you in your tracks because it's a
Yeah,
very like a
alarming.
yeah, but it's also really really great painting and a great painter. He's the like one of the painters. You talk to
Oh, for sure.
any other like artist, they're like, yeah, Goya, he was great. So, all right,
Yeah, for
so
sure. For sure. Let's see. The second one that hey, you gave me multiple, so I'm gonna
go
take them.
for it.
I'm gonna take them.
This is what I went to school for, so
I was about
I
to say
love
you're
it.
probably this is probably your
Yeah,
favorite part of the show.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
all right, second one is going to be Jackson Pollock's Autumn Rhythm. So we saw that one in at the Met in 2016, and Chaz was always a big fan of Pollock. And uh, people have opinions about Jackson Pollock,
Mm-hmm.
but when you see it in person, it's like, holy cow! Like it
Yeah,
feels more than what it actually looks when you just look at it in photos. So that one
I
was really
believe it.
cool.
I believe it. We have the by me. I'm out of Dallas, Fort Worth area, and
Okay.
there's a lot of pretty famous museums, like or not famous, but like established museums. I'll say that, and they have a few Pollocks, and but it's like um, abs, ab, his abstract stuff, not the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
expressionist stuff, and I haven't gotten to see any of his drip paintings in person,
Yeah.
so I've not like I when I teach it to students, I'm like, guys, I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure this is one you got to see for yourself,
Yeah.
like because I can relate it like a Rothko.
Yep.
I've seen that in person, but so I do. I love Pollock. I think he's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love him. I love his artwork.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So anyway, sorry.
Well, yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
one of the, like you said, if you haven't seen him in person, it's almost like, because I can see where people look at his artwork and they're like, okay,
Yeah.
okay. But like when you see it in person, it really is different, I think. Um,
Yeah. My
so,
favorite response is like, "Oh, did he do that first or something?" I'm like, does that change it?
right.
What a weird what a weird question to ask. But
Yep.
yeah, so that's cool. You saw that at the Met, okay?
Yep. That was back in 2016 that we went. So
Okay.
I'm assuming it's still there, but I honestly don't know.
All right.
I honestly don't
Two
know.
two famous painters. All right.
Well, listen, I had to come in hard with some art, and
Yeah,
like
man,
those are
you
real
did.
answers. I didn't like manufacture those. Don't worry. I'm
No,
being
that's
sincere.
these are great. Yeah, the
But
fact
no,
that like Goya and Pollock together, that's cool.
I told
That's
you they
real
were two
cool.
different ones,
Yeah,
two
man,
very different styles, but
for
those are
sure.
like really the ones that like, seeing them in person, I think did really make a difference. And the fact that Goya painted those black paintings on his like wall in his house is crazy.
Yeah,
That's
Ye-
crazy.
that is crazy. Yes, people, if you don't know, you need to go look it up. Like he had a house and he made these paintings, and they were all kind of, we'll say
Weird.
dark. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll say dark. And yeah, he lived with them. That's the
Yeah.
something was going on. So
Listen, I
it's
can't
yeah.
vouch for this man, but yeah,
His
it's
paintings
it's
are cool.
something.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
cool, yeah.
yeah.
And he has some that are like, even before the black paintings that were, I think, were really cool. Saw some when I went to Paris last year and the year before for the Team USA stuff. But when I went on my first trip, I went to the Louvre and saw some of the ones that they had there, and they were like, it's so funny because I don't even consider myself like a art aficionado. I really don't know that much, but like I remember walking past one that I didn't even like. I didn't know it was a Goya
Yeah,
painting, but like it
yeah.
it it stopped me in the sense that like I was like,
This is familiar. Yeah,
and then I
yeah.
read it and I was like, okay, I know what I'm
Nice.
looking at here.
There you
So
go.
it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I know it when I see it, but it's yeah, I do think that I don't know. I think Goya is one of the best for sure.
Awesome. Right on.
But
All
anyway.
right. No, that's great. You got another one?
The only other thing that came to mind whenever I was thinking about it in terms of like art, and since you brought up filmmaking, the film that I want to mention just because this is an art show
Bring it
is
on.
a film
Bring-
called The Tree of Life. It is
Okay.
I'm not even going to go into it. Just
The Tree
watch the
of
trailer.
Life.
The Tree of Life by a director named Terrence Malick.
Mother, always you wrestle inside me. Always you will.
Someday we'll fall down and weep, and we'll understand it all. All things.
It's my favorite film of all time. I think it is one of the most beautiful films of all time, and it's definitely the film that stopped me in
Oh,
my tracks. To answer your question, like
this is
what's
this is
something
the
that
first
stopped you?
film. It's the
There you
first time
go.
someone said a film. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. To me, it is like it's the masterpiece of all cinema. It is
Yeah.
the best
Okay. I gotta check this out. I'm
for
a
sure.
like what do you call it? Not a very amateur like film critic, I guess you could say. I'm not a
Sure.
critic,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
appreciator.
Hey, that's
And
me with fine art. Don't worry.
there you go. Yeah. It's funny, like it doesn't, people feel like you have to be educated to like appreciate something. It's like, do you like it or no?
Mm-hmm.
And like, do you want to spend time figuring out why you like it?
Mm-hmm.
That's all that matters, man. That's the important stuff. Tree of Life by Terrence Malick.
Mm-hmm. That's the one.
I'm gonna check it out. Is it? Yeah, I'll find it. That's cool. Sweet. Yeah, I've had people say like, oh gosh, do you know Christian from In the Pits?
Yes.
He's another. He was the first one to give me a choir. Like he gave me a choir thing, a song. I don't know the
Cool.
proper term, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. And then someone else, who was it? Someone gave me a motivational speaker,
Okay.
and I was like, that was the one where I was like, I don't know, man. This maybe not.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And then I've had writers and all that stuff. So, but this is the first film. I'm excited about that.
Very cool.
Right on. Okay. Well, cool. Then, what is the best advice that's been given to you, or most memorable advice?
Oh man. Mm, mm, mm. I should have had an answer for this. I should have had one.
It's all good. It could also be the
Um,
weirdest advice,
oh gosh.
like just
Um,
something you're like, why did someone tell me that?
all right. You might have to do like one of those things where you like fast forward it and like play Jeopardy music while I think about this.
I could do that. No
All
worries.
right, give me one
Or
second.
we could move on to something else too. It's no
No,
big
I
deal.
I'm gonna get you an answer. I'm gonna get you an answer for sure.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of what I would consider the best advice. Mm, that's tough. I don't know if it's like inherently someone like advice that someone gave me. But I think something that I've kind of learned along the way is that one thing is it's never too late. So this is a great piece of conversation here because in terms of like filmmaking or art or anything that you're getting into, I don't think it's ever too late to, get into something new or to try something new. And to that point, I didn't really, I was introduced to paintball early on, but I didn't really get involved until I started playing in my mid to late 20s. So I think it's just one of those things where it's like, don't let anything, stop you from trying, and especially not your age or where you are in your life. I think you can do anything at any point, and to a certain degree, unless you're playing the Snake One. Age
Yeah.
is just a number.
Make sure you stretch,
No,
guys.
I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Yeah.
But no, it's just,
Yeah.
I think that, and then just on that same note, though, kind of in relation to the fact that I didn't start playing paintball till later, is you really have to appreciate every single opportunity that you're given. I'm really bad about being too nostalgic and, thinking about how things used to be. And it's like, but
Oh, I
we're in
see.
the
Okay.
now, you know what I mean? And like,
Mm-hmm.
you're one day, this is going to be the time that you're thinking about. So I think just, appreciating what you're doing at the moment, whether that's starting something new at age
Mm-hmm.
26 or 36 or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if that really is
No, it's
advice,
great.
but
That
that's
is.
what I got. That's how I feel. So
That's good. That's
yeah,
great. That's yeah, super. That's like very encouraging. It's never too late, uh, especially when you're an old man. Okay. Well, cool. This has been great. I've got one more question, but before I
okay,
do
cool.
that, is there? Oh, you know what?
What's up? What's up?
You're the third Clatter person I've had
I
on.
am. I
Yeah.
am indeed.
So talk to me about that. So it was still, from what I understand, it was still kind of new for Danny when I
Yep.
interviewed her, and then Andy. He's a different aspect of it. So
Yeah.
talk to me about Clatter. Talk about me about being a player for Clatter.
Yeah, for sure. So, Andy reached out to me back at the end of the year last year, right around Cup, and was saying, "Hey, like I'm going to be starting this new thing. Do you want to be a part of it?" And kind of going back to the conversation we had at the very beginning of this episode here, which was, kind of being thrust into the limelight because of WNXL. I get a lot of people that say, "Hey, do you want to do this show or like this, or do you want to wear this shirt or brand, or do you want to
Mm-hmm.
be a sponsored player or whatever?" And so you kind of get used to having a lot of stuff like happening in your DMs and like this and that. But like for me, the difference was that it was Andy.
Yeah.
Andy, and I think I listened to his episode with you, but he's right. We've been friends for a while, and back whenever you're getting me on a tangent here, but Chaz and I actually moved out to LA for a little bit right when COVID happened. And when we went out there, one of the people that was very welcoming to us was Andy Horvath, and he's been
Oh,
really,
cool.
really good to us, and he's a good dude. And when he, said, "Hey, I'm going to start this thing," I was like, "Let's do it, buddy." So
Nice.
I saw some of their designs early on, and I was like, "Man, this is incredible." And then that's when I found out, Stefan was designer for Adidas, and all the
Mm-hmm.
dots, made
Yeah.
sense. And yeah, so what they're doing is really cool. And for anybody that's listened to this podcast, you've probably already heard all this, so I'm not going to waste your time. But yeah, Clatter's just trying to do things that are original. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of stuff, a lot of clothing, a lot of different brands in paintball. But what I appreciate about Andy and Stefan and Clatter is that I feel like they are trying to do something that's different in
Yeah.
the truest sense. That it's like a corner that's of the market that's not really been like reached. And you can go check out Andy's podcast to hear more about the details behind
Oh,
Clatter.
that's like a double,
Yep.
yeah, double shout out. All right.
Yep.
Freaking pro over here.
And
That's
also,
amazing. Yeah.
one more thing about Clatter. It's funny that you had Danny on because I make a joke about I always joke about how Danny was like, for me, it was like bring your kid to work day, because Danny was with me on the Heroines, and Danny and I she joined the Heroines last year, which was my
Mm-hmm.
last year with Heroines, and she and I got super, super close. And we were at Cup, and she was waiting on me to get done talking with Andy and Stefan at Cup, and I saw her sitting over there, and I was like, I'm going to get her in on this too.
There you
And so
go.
I had told Andy and Stefan, I was like, "Hey, listen, if you want another female player, this girl's the one. Like, she's the one. Not only because she's, in my opinion, probably the best player in the WNXL right now, um,
Nice.
and is the future of the WNXL, in my opinion. But she also has an incredible backing and fan base in South America, which is huge in terms of,
Mm-hmm.
broadening Clatter as a brand. And she's super positive, super,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I don't know. She's got what it takes. So I was like, "Hey, can I bring my kid to work with me?" And so yeah, that's how Danny got involved. And so I always give her a hard time. But yeah, and then of course ABJ, Archie Barnes, and Hosky being the other two makes total sense to me. Everything Andy
Yeah.
said was like, I was like, "Sign me up, let's do it."
Yeah. That's a hell of a lineup. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. They know what they're doing.
Definitely.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, we talked about writing, we talked about photography, talked about playing, and filmmaking. That was a pleasant surprise for me. I'm excited about that.
For sure.
I'm going to reach out to Chaz now and be like, hey, let's talk.
Oh, he'd love it.
You're next, Buster. Yeah, that's what I'll say.
Yeah, right?
There we go. All right. Well, Jenn Fulk, this podcast is called The Joy of Paintball, and
Yep.
you are officially the third person that I've asked this to. This is embarrassing
Oh,
on my
boy.
part. I don't know why I've never, like, I think Christian was the first one I asked. And
Okay.
for like 15 episodes, it never dawned on me to ask this question. So, anyway, Jenn Fulk, what is the joy of paintball?
It's funny because when I think about paintball, or I should say, when I think other people think about paintball, what are the things we enjoy about paintball, like as a player, which is like, oh, I like the gunfight and winning the gunfight and shooting the other person in the face, or I like outsmarting my opponent or whatever. But when it comes to like paintball as a whole, the most joy that I get out of paintball is winning a point as a team, like as a team game, like not an individual game. And I say that because of, again, circling back to, oh, this is Jen. She's involved in all these different things in paintball. She's got this spotlight from Nobody Excel, or she's commentator or whatever. But like paintball, what makes paintball enjoyable for me is teamwork, like quite literally teamwork. And I would be okay going out there and having never had to gunfight or never win a fight or never shoot someone in the face. Like all I want to do is win the point, and I want to win it with my team. And I think that that's like, to me, that brings me joy. Like I remember we played a point in Tampa at the last event where the way I think about it is like you have 5 people and it's like an orchestra. So like each person is playing their instrument, right? And like if you take out that one instrument, it's like the whole sound just sounds terrible. And I remember we went out for this one point and every single person like did exactly what they needed to do, like with exactly. And then within like 40 seconds, the other team like toweled it. And it's like that, those are the points that like
Yeah.
bring me so much joy. And going back to paintball media, I always hire a videographer and photographer. So when I went back and watched like that clip, it's just like, and I'm watching how I'm reacting. It's like, I don't care if I just went and dumped 2 pods into a gap. Like, I don't care about like the little things. It's like, I just want to win, and I want to win like as a team and with teamwork. And I think that also comes from owning a team and playing with my husband on the team. And just like, I don't know, to me, that brings me so much joy is when like
Yeah.
the team is all like working together and that orchestra like sounds perfect. So yeah.
I love it. Paintball is music. That's the joy. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This is great.
Yeah, this was awesome. I love this. I love your take on this like on the show and like making it about art. Like it's refreshing. Seriously, thank you.
Oh, thank
It's awesome.
you. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
sure.
Another thing I forget to do is to like let y'all shout out anything you want to shout out. Like, what's your? I'm sure everyone knows where to find you on Instagram, but like, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? Anyone else that we should know?
I feel like I've kind of went over them, but yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
shout out to Underground, Chaz, my home team.
There you go.
Yeah, obviously. I can't go without shouting out the Heroines and Anthony and Lori, who own the Heroines, and all the rest of the Heroines for letting me step away this year and focus on Underground. Heroines are still some of my greatest friends, and I appreciate them for everything that they do. In terms of sponsors, this year, Twister is my main sponsor,
Nice.
but also Clatter Paintball. So check out Clatter Paintball at Clatter Paintball or clatterpaintball.com. And my last sponsor, which is also kind of a creator. So I'm going to throw another little curveball at you. But Ryan Rodriguez runs 33 Threads, and he's making not printed, woven goggle straps. And he's been doing that for the last couple of years. And he's been a real one. He reached out to me from the very start when he first started doing them, was like, hey, like, let me know what you think about these. Here's a couple. And he's been a real one since then. So he's another guy I'd like to shout out as a creator that's trying to do things differently. So
Yeah, his
yeah.
stuff's cool too. It's kind of
Very cool.
like there's, I don't want to say a crossover, but there's we'll say similarities
For sure.
between Clatter and 33 as far
Yep.
as like, so that
Definitely.
checks out. That's cool.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Well, you made it. Thank you so much for listening to that. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Jenn Fulk, and hope you got to know her a little bit more, got to see her character and just how great of a person she is. This is the joy of paintball, and if you enjoy it, if you like this and you want to support me in any way, the best way, the most impactful way to me is for you to go to cureduchenne.org, and you can donate there. That means so much to me. Duchenne muscular dystrophy is a disease that is affecting my son. It's a horrible disease, and Cure Duchenne is trying to cure it. So cureduchenne.org, and yeah, that's the best way. Or you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/riddlesart. It's in the notes, and there's different levels that you could contribute to on there also. Or you can leave a like, you can comment, you can, I don't know, tell someone, hey, it was a pretty cool episode, you should go check them out. Maybe, if you want, that's your thing. It's up to you. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great night, be safe, tell someone you love them.